Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they pledge you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week we are checking back in on Sesame Street. Since we are in the fall of 1982 in our chronological order, that means it's time to dive into season 14 of Sesame Street. And we'll also be enjoying a couple of other TV appearances that happened right around this time, about 40 years ago. Well, exactly 40 years ago, Sam.
December 4th, 40 years ago?
Well, okay, so we're talking about the time of November and December of 1982. So pretty much exactly 40 years ago. But before we get into that, Sam, I do this from time to time, and I just want to get it out of the way. I want to do some housekeeping here at the top of the podcast, because guess what? Not everyone listens all the way to the end of every episode of our podcasts.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because that's where some of our best shit is.
Yeah. But because that happens, and because I know people don't always listen to the end, maybe they don't know about our cool things we have available that they could, give us money for. So I just want to do a quick little plug here at the top to let people know that we have a Patreon at patreon.com/commitment, where you can go and pledge $4 a month to help this podcast keep existing and for us to buy new things like microphone stands and microphone cords and the other things that people need to make podcasts.
Yeah, if you watch our live streams, you'll see why we need these things.
Yeah, we have a microphone stand that slowly drops through the frame as we do our live stream.
It served me well for a decade.
Yeah.
So, it's time for it to be retired, but...
Yeah, we'll burn it in effigy on the next live stream.
We'd have to, smelt it. I think we'd have to rent a smelter.
We'll smelt it and we'll turn it into necklaces for the two of us.
Yeah, I'll turn it into a sacrificial dagger.
Ooh.
That'll be our last live stream.
Are you going to stab?
Come over here.
Okay, you're going to stab me. Yes, okay. That's what I thought was happening.
And I'll cut you open, and then real Muppets will come out of your chest.
See, this is why you have to go to our Patreon, pledge your $4 a month, and come hang out in our live streams, which we do every month.
If we get 100 patrons, I'll sacrifice Matt live on camera.
Well, since we have 12, I think I'm pretty safe for now. But yeah, we do a monthly live stream where we hang out and play video games and just hang out in Sam's basement. It's more fun than that sounds. We're like the Wayne and Garth of the Muppet world.
I always want him to stay for a whole night and have a sleepover, but he never will because it's Tuesday usually.
Yeah, a Tuesday sleepover is not in the cards, I don't think.
It's too bad we don't have summer break, because then you could have a Tuesday sleepover.
Maybe someday we'll have to do a weekend or a Christmas break kind of all night live stream. Maybe that could be the actual celebration if we hit 50 or 100 patrons on our Patreon.
Yeah.
We could do a 24-hour live stream.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I love to stream for massive amounts of time and just get babbling and incoherent.
Well, see, that's why you got to come hang out on Patreon. But we also have a Discord with the Patreon that is also fun, where we get to have little Muppet conversations and sometimes non-Muppet conversations with our Patreon patrons. But that's not the only place you can give us money, is it, Sam?
I'm not really 100% sure what the next thing you're going to say is, but I think I know. Yes, the pins.
Yes, we have a Commitment logo enamel pin available at our Etsy shop, which is a long URL full of numbers and letters that I won't try to ramble out here. But if you just go to commitment.com, you can find a big old button that says shop, and that'll take you right to our Etsy shop.
What's the other website we have?
Camelmatch.com, which I forgot about until you just said that. But yes, if you don't know what that's about, that's an old episode where we talked about Sop with the Camel and somehow got to camelmatch.com.
I think it was in his Muppet Encyclopedia page or something like that,
Yeah, it was in the character encyclopedia. It was on his page that he met his wife or something on camelmatch.com. And that URL was not purchased by Disney. And so we grabbed it, and we now have it. Actually, speaking of URLs purchased by Disney, recently someone on Twitter shared a screenshot of a bunch of unmade movie titles.
Oh, yeah.
Basically things that were in the works by the Henson Company when Disney stepped in and bought them. A lot of people had a lot of feelings about this list, mostly because they wish that most of them had happened. But amongst that contract, because there was a source link there that like linked to other screenshots from that same contract. And so I went and read through some more of that contract, not just that page. And in there is a lovely list of URLs that the Jim Henson Company owns and now Disney now owns, or at least did at the time of this contract signing. And they include a lot of variations of things like MuppetMovie.com, MuppetMovie.net, MuppetRacemania.ca, MuppetRacemania.net, Muppets.biz, Muppets.us. You know, not really surprising things.
Uh-huh.
But amongst them is MuppetFucker.com.
What?
And MuppetFucker.net.
I guess you got to buy these things so that... But there's so many different versions of that you would need to buy too, I feel like.
It looks like they just bought the two, the .com and the .net. They're not worried about a MuppetFucker.biz.
What if it was fucker of Muppets.com, you know?
I think that's available, probably.
What if it was making love to the Muppets.com? You have to buy all these.
They don't mind that one, I guess.
You can make love to a Muppet. You just can't fuck a Muppet.
You can get... So MuppetFucker.com is taken. MuppetFucker.org is available.
Okay, but do you have to... Can anybody get a Muppet, a .org?
It looks like
or
it.
You have to prove you're like an organization.
We'd have to make a MuppetFucker nonprofit.
We'd have to enter some uncomfortable paperwork at the courthouse.
Yeah, it's probably best to avoid that.
We'll end up on a list. So yeah, I'm looking at this list now. Are you done talking about Muppet Fucker?
You definitely am. I
I
was done like the second time I said it. I was like, I don't want to keep saying these words.
So the Muppet Wizard of Oz, that happened. Right?
That one happened, and Muppet Haunted House is essentially what became Muppet Haunted Mansion.
So the ones with stars, so there's this list, and some of them have stars next to them. The one with stars were the ones that were in active production.
Right. So the other ones are scripts or treatments that happened, but weren't necessarily going anywhere. So these aren't things that Disney was like, fuck that, we're not making that thing. They're just things that, this happens in a lot of studios. People write things, they go in a drawer, they never get talked about.
So the other one in active production was When Kermit Met Piggy. Did that exist in any form that we ever saw?
I don't believe so, but it is something that we actually sort of talked about when we watched The Great Muppet Caper. Is we were saying that we wanted like an 80s rom-com When Harry Met Sally style thing with Piggy because she reminded us of like Meg Ryan back then. And so it's interesting to see that they were also thinking the same thing.
In my head, Kermit was not part of that equation. In my head,
Same.
She was like...
she could fall in love with Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal. She could fall in love with... Who's that British guy who was in Love Actually?
All of them?
Oh, wait. The
Hugh
young,
Grant.
handsome one. Yeah, Hugh Grant. Piggy and Hugh Grant movie, that could work. Piggy and Tom Hanks movie, that could work, What else? Muppet Time Travel. I think that could be fun, but I don't see how it could be a whole thing,
That is my gut reaction to most of these, I think. Because I think like Muppet Time Travel is like, yeah, okay, I kind of see what that is, but what's the plot? Like, do Bunsen and Beaker throw them back in time and they have to try and get back?
The only interesting thing about that is if they like shed some light on the history of like what Muppets are, get really deep into like the lore of where Muppets came from.
Like we go back and we see Muppet dinosaurs and Muppet cavemen and their actual like ancestors.
Like the first fish climbs out of the water, and then next to it, the first Muppet fish climbs out of the water, and it's like, hey there, how's it going? That would be pretty good, actually.
I don't mind that. Well, the next one on this list we've talked about in the past, it's the cheapest Muppet movie. Which in the past I believe has been called the cheapest Muppet movie ever made. This is the one that I think is the closest to happening at some point, or at least was the closest to happening amongst the original crew with like Jim and Frank and Jerry Jewell.
It's got a script and everything, right?
Yes, I believe some people out there in the Muppet fandom have read that script. I have not been able to find it or get my hands on it, but I'd love to. And yeah, that's the idea of basically the Muppets would blow all their money at the beginning of the movie with an opening number, and so like the movie would like look cheaper and cheaper as it went on.
Yeah.
Which is still a great idea.
I think this would be great.
Then we have the Animal Origin movie, which is the first one where I went, oh, what if they did the Star Wars thing? Where they suddenly were like, we need to explain everything in our universe, so give us 12 Disney Plus shows to explain everything. And suddenly we have an Animal Origin movie. We have a Bunsen going to college movie. We have...
okay.
Yeah, see? We get all of these.
I mean, Kermit's Swamp Ears, by all accounts, is horrible. So maybe this wouldn't work, but... I'm excited.
Yeah.
I want to see Floyd find a little animal under a box in an alley, and he's soaking wet, and Floyd's like, oh, we got to help this little guy.
But it's like Beethoven. Like, Animal comes home and just ruins everything.
Yeah. Yeah. But so many Muppets ruin everything. I feel like the bar's pretty high for, like, how bad would a Muppet have to ruin everything for the other Muppets to say, you got to go?
They'd have to keep moving houses because Animal just keeps destroying all the houses. And so they're like, well, I guess we have to live in a bus now. Then we have Muppet 1776, which is something, again, we just talked about here on the podcast.
We basically saw this already, yeah.
Yeah, thankfully they did basically as much as you can do with that idea, I think.
Yeah, I think it would have been really funny, though, because that skit was really good.
Mm-hmm. Muppet Camelot is another one, which they did a big Camelot sketch on The Muppet Show. But, yeah, again, some of these probably could work, but they don't immediately... spark joy in my brain where I'm like, oh, I have to see a Muppet Camelot.
So I'd assume the idea with both of these is that they're just adapting the Broadway, the play, the musical?
Yeah, in some way, or like, sort of like they did with Wizard of Oz and like they did with Christmas Carol, where it's like, we take the story and do a pretty straightforward version of it, but just like the Muppet twist. Then we got Muppets Halloween Special, which again doesn't have much in there, but I know that's something that they wanted to do for a while, and Haunted Mansion ended up being the first one. And the last few here, we've got Muppets Las Vegas, which I just imagine Pepe going on the run.
It's a Bill Beretta joint, so yeah. Probably heavy Pepe.
He wrote that as a starring vehicle for Pepe, which I wouldn't mind.
I think that could be fun. I think they could really get into some trouble in Las Vegas.
Yeah, have The Hangover, but with Muppets.
Ooh, okay. I think that idea has some legs.
Yeah. Then we got Muppets in Space, which is presumably maybe
distinct from Muppets from Space?
I don't know. Again, we don't know when these things were written, because some of them could have been written way before this transaction was taking place, and then.
But Jerry Jewell wrote Muppets from Space, right?
Yes, I believe that's the last thing he worked on for the Muppets.
This is by Kirk Thatcher, so this is different. The Muppets were going back to space, baby.
Yeah, maybe this is they all decided to go with Gonzo. This was a sequel, maybe.
Oh yeah, to visit his family. That would be fun.
But they also have down at the bottom of this document, Primetime Series, a pilot script for both The New Muppet Show and Tom Martin Muppet Show, which is probably just called that because Tom Martin wrote it. So they were trying at different times to get a new Muppet Show off the ground.
So these are the things they were working on right when they sold to Disney.
Well,
that's what it was.
Again, these are not all things they were working on. The one with the asterisks are the things that they were currently working on. The other things are scripts that they bought and owned. Mm-hmm. So people had written these treatments or scripts. They paid them for their work, but that does not guarantee that they were ever going to make any of these. But yeah, going through this Disney Muppet contract was interesting just to, again, be reminded of all the things that Disney owns but does nothing with anymore. Like the Hey Cinderella's, Frog Princes, Miss Piggy Goes to Hollywood, these kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, kind of the Muppets a little bit is something that they own and don't do too much with.
Yes, but I feel like there's such a nostalgia for the Muppets now after they put up the Muppet Show on Disney Plus that I feel like you could get away with throwing up a lot of these old specials on there. But we'll see. Maybe someday. And the last thing before we get into talking about what we're actually here to talk about this week, I wanted to mention that Brett Goldstein got to interview the Muppets for 20 minutes, all about the anniversary of Muppet Christmas Carol, and it's just a delightful 20 minutes if you want to go hang out with Brett Goldstein and the Muppets. It's really, really cute. Robin is adorable in it, and yeah, it's very good, and you get a lot of good ad-libbing between Gonzo and Kermit, and it seems like all the performers are having a really fun time.
Who's there? Who's all there?
It's Piggy, Gonzo, Robin, and Kermit. And they mention Rizzo. They talk about Rizzo a little bit.
They're letting him out of timeout, huh?
Yeah, they acknowledge his existence.
Dipping their toe back in the Rizzo pool.
But we're not here today to talk about Rizzo. We are here today to talk about Sesame Street. So, Sam, tell the people what we watched this week.
First, we watched the season 14 premiere of Sesame Street, which aired on November 22nd, 1982, entitled Big Bird at Camp, Part 1. Big Bird, as the title implies, is going to camp, and everyone on Sesame Street is so excited to get rid of him for a week that they sing a very epic song called Big Bird's Going to Camp, in which Big Bird also says all of his goodbyes. Later, he goes to say goodbye to Snuffy, and they're both very, very sad. They cry for like 2 whole segments about how sad they are. Big Bird goes and asks the grown-ups if it's normal to be sad that someone's leaving, and they say yes, and then they lie and say that they are also sad that he's leaving.
You think they're lying?
Well, I would be lying. I mean, I think, I have a lot of questions about Big Bird's lifestyle. Like, who's paying for it?
Yeah.
Where are his parents? Do we ever learn that?
I don't think so.
That's a movie, right? Is Follow That Bird about him finding his parents?
That's a great question. We'll have to find out when we watch that.
I just want to know how he ended up there. And who's paying for camp?
I mean, he's got a granny bird that we have, that comes around from time to time. So maybe she's sending money to, Susan and Gordon and being like, hey, you take care of him.
That's true. And he has family he's in touch with, but what happened to his parents? Anyway, maybe it's normal for big birds to go off when they're babies and just start their own lives.
Like
the
Amish.
Parents somewhere else. Yeah. Or like every other animal,
Oh, not a big bird rumspringer?
He's on a rumspringer.
That's what Follow That Bird's about, probably.
Gonna go get drunk for the first time. Then Giancarlo Esposito shows up in a big bus to take Big Bird away to camp, but the bus breaks before they can leave. Susan is apparently a mechanic. I did not know that. So she comes out to fix the bus while Big Bird gets on and meets one of his bunkmates, a nasty little Muppet boy named Rusty. They have a fight over who Giancarlo Esposito likes more, and then decide that they are both annoying enough that they can be friends. The bus is fixed, and they go to Camp Echo Rock, where Camp Director May, played by Marilyn Sokol, the voice of Emmett Otter's mother, welcomes them all and teaches them a secret handshake and sends Big Bird off to his bunk. And the episode ends there, so we do not get to see how Big Bird fucks up being at camp. I imagine he probably cries and wants to go home at some point.
There is an episode where him and Rusty are both pretty sad about being homesick, and they cry together in their cabin.
Rusty was bad news. I did not. He reminded me of a Bob's Burgers character.
I think he comes around to being more likable.
Next, we watched a whole bunch of assorted clips from season 14, both on the DVD and on a YouTube playlist. And here is what we saw. A Waiter Grover sketch where he's working as a singing waiter at a Spanish restaurant, which makes him even more annoying than usual. Kermit singing to a bunch of child frogs about how nice it is to be a frog, and also they're in Scotland for some reason. Susan and Gordon dance a tango in Grouchland, which has a very David Lynch Black Lodge for kids kind of vibe to it. Grouchland does. I could see them fighting over creamed corn and just doing all kinds of nasty things down there. Prairie and Ernie put on a school play about emotions in which Bert is playing love, but he's not really feeling it, so he writes his own song about how much he loves pigeons, oatmeal, and, of course, Ernie. That was very sweet. I like that one.
Very cute.
The Count recounts his first day at school, wherein he counted all the students in his classroom with a jaunty little song. Bert and Ernie walk through the jungle to try to find a doctor so Ernie can ask him, "What's up, Doc?" as a joke. I thought that skit was very boring. We then meet Captain Vegetable, a deranged superhero rabbit who turns all other food into raw vegetables while singing a very catchy song. I fucking love this guy.
He's amazing.
I would watch a whole show of just Captain Vegetable. Then we watched a cowboy sing a song in which he, I guess, fantasizes about killing his girlfriend's other lovers. I wasn't paying much attention to this skit. I don't really know what was going on here.
Well, I think he says he's going to circle the girl he likes and cross out the other guys. So it doesn't directly say he's going to off them, but it does say he'll cross them out.
What's the lesson here?
Shapes.
Okay.
Circles
and X's.
And yeah, and he also says he's not going to use a triangle, he's going to use a circle. So we just learn the difference between shapes.
Then we saw Grover be a camp counselor at camp. Is it Wanagahoma? Is that what the camp is called?
Yeah.
Where he learned that shoes aren't alive. And then we saw him star in Monster Piece Theater, where he's a mountain climber. And I honestly can't remember what the punchline of this one is. These hills are alive with the sound of music is involved.
Yeah, because he's sitting on a hill listening for the sound of music. And then all of a sudden the hills come alive and they start to walk away with him on top of them.
Right, that's what happened. Okay. We saw Cookie Monster sing a couple of songs, one where he wants to eat the moon, but changes his mind because he would miss looking at the moon if he ate the moon, and another called Hey Food, which is a very good parody of Hey Jude, which he sings with a band of Beatles that is just called, I think, the Beatles.
They are, but it's spelled different, so don't sue them.
Yeah, so it's okay. These Beatles were much better than the Muppet Show Beatles, right?
I mean, yes, I agree. Yes.
They were horrible.
The weird, shiny, actual bugs.
Shiny. Yeah. Bert and Ernie build a snowman, but Ernie is too worried to leave it outside in the cold, so Bert teaches Ernie that some things like snowmen are not alive, and some things are alive. And Ernie feels better, but he still makes Bert give the snowman his hat and gloves. And finally, Olivia, Big Bird, Ernie, and Oscar all take separate showers and baths and sing a song about how fun it is to sing in the bathroom, which they're right, it is very fun. Then we watched a clip from the 1982 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. We see the Kermit balloon going down the street, preceded by Bo, who's driving like one of those old-timey limousines, not a stretch limousine, but just like a limousine, carrying Statler, Waldorf, Gonzo, and some rats. And that segment ends with one of the best sentences I've ever heard in my whole life. Next up, Paul Williams sings to a giant Olive Oyl. And finally, we watched a clip from the British version of This Is Your Life. The subject is Lewis Collins, who's one of the stars of the British show The Professionals, which is about a team of I think sort of James Bond. It's like the A-Team, but in England, I'm pretty sure. They're like special forces guys who take on threats to the crown each week. And anyway, it seems like this dude loves Gonzo. He sleeps with a Gonzo doll, maybe?
I think that part was a joke, but he does love Gonzo.
Yeah. So Gonzo shows up. When the guy says, "We got Gonzo," you can see in Lewis Collins' eyes that he's like, Gonzo's going to pop up behind me. But actually, it's just a pre-taped segment where Gonzo's like, "What's up? Great work on The Professionals. See you later." But that's still enough to make Lewis Collins cry about Gonzo.
So yeah, we watched a lot this week, most of it Sesame Street, but there were some other things that happened during this era of the Muppets that are worth touching on. It is, again, still worth noting that the website for Jim's Red Book, which is the website that is the blog of Jim's Journal, is still
down?
It's still down, so I'm afraid it might not come back. Who knows? We'll see. It's been down for over a month or two now. So that's concerning. But again, with the Wayback Machine, I am able to track down a few of the things that are in there, but not all of them. So again, we might, if it comes back on online at some point, I might do a big recap at some point of things that we missed in our timeline, but are actually important.
There's not like a physical copy of this you can buy or something, is there?
No, I think I think Brian J. Jones has talked about how he has like a photocopied version of Jim's Journal that he was given for research, but I think that's probably the only kind of people who have access to that are the Brian J. Joneses of the world.
Hey, how different are we really from Brian J. Jones? We're like 4 books different than Brian J. Jones, maybe more.
Yeah. He has done much more research and work than we ever have.
We read his books and then talked about them. For research.
But see, he left his house to go do research in physical locations where he could dig through files and stuff.
He talked to primary sources. We talked to, at best, secondary sources and possibly tertiary sources.
Well, and in a lot of cases, his research is our source.
Yeah.
But the things that did happen during this time. On October 17th, 1982, Jim wrote in his journal, L.A. Dark Crystal Fashion Collection.
Oh.
So
what does that mean?
Yeah. So during this time, poor guys, they really thought Dark Crystal was going to be the next big thing because they are doing everything when this is coming out, including the Dark Crystal clothing collection meant to celebrate the distinctive costumes and graphic elements in the film. There is a brief video package on the Jim Henson Company's YouTube channel that I found like literally right before we start to record that talks about this, and it's interesting to go give it a watch. But they were trying to make like an actual fashion line of really expensive clothes that were really limited. So it was basically a way for Jim to keep the costumers in-house and busy during post-production so that they would be available for future Henson projects.
Oh.
So he was like, I don't want to lose these people. I have to keep them working. What if we made high fashion? So they made 40 pieces, priced between $500 and $1,800. And again, that's $1982, people. and these were created in limited editions and offered exclusively through 4 shops in London, New York, San Francisco, and Houston. Yeah, the natural.
Is Houston like a was it like a fashion capital of Texas or something?
Maybe it was in the early 80s. But Bendel's in New York apparently had a huge window display that featured the mannequins wearing the outfits and even creatures from the film posed alongside them. But in the end, much like the film, the collection did not sell well. And the Jim Henson's Red Book page says it was perhaps a little ahead of the fashions that would become popular in the mid-'80s. But the designers remained together as a team and eventually went to work on the labyrinth together.
I'm fascinated to watch The Dark Crystal again. Because
I'm fascinated and afraid.
I do feel bad for them at this point because it's like, museum show, this fashion collection. It's what Jim's been working on for like we talked about Sesame Street just like 2 episodes ago because he's just been working on this so hard, I assume, right?
Well, he's also been working in the background on it for 5 years when he first hired Brian Froud to come on and start designing creatures. And that's, from what I understand, again, I have seen The Dark Crystal maybe once or twice in my entire life, and it's been a very long time. So watching it next week for the episode we're recording will be the first time I've seen it in a very long time. From the people I've talked to about this, it seems like a lot of people at least, not everyone, their summary is that it's beautiful, it's a technical achievement, but it's the most boring movie they've ever seen. And so that's what I'm prepared for. That's the way I remember it when I was younger, but maybe I'll have a newfound appreciation for it now. But, I mean, it also seems like that is probably part of, they designed these creatures first. They started off with, here's the creatures we're going to make a movie about. Now, what should the movie be? So we will see and discover whether or not we like The Dark Crystal next week. But also in November of 1982, Jim wrote in his journal looking at different computer graphics. So Jim was super excited about computers in general and was actually exploring the concept for a television special with a focus on demystifying computers for the general public.
Oh.
But around this time, Jim also was starting development on a series that would end up going nowhere called Star Boppers, which was a planned television series that would feature some alien characters who were loosely based on Freudian ideas.
Too complicated all, but in the second sentence.
And he imagined this as normal, Muppets, but with digitally rendered sets behind them.
Huh.
So, very early CG sets behind Muppets.
So it's like the volume.
I mean,
right?
It's kind of like the volume, but probably a lot worse, and they wouldn't be able to move around.
Yeah, it'll look even more like shit.
Yeah. This obviously did not happen. There is a little bit of test footage out there that we can watch eventually as we approach 83 and 84 when they were actually working on this. But the Jim's Red Book does note that Jim would go on to use computer animation for the owl at the opening of Labyrinth and would work with CG on the animated opening sequence of the Jim Henson Hour. So he got to do a little bit of CG in his lifetime. Again, going back to The Dark Crystal and how they were just doing so much to make this work, November 7th and 9th in 1982, Jim wrote in his journal that they were working on the Channel 13 documentary for The Dark Crystal. And this is the documentary called The World of the Dark Crystal, which we are also going to be watching for next week. And not only did they make this documentary, but they also made a book by Brian Froud called The World of the Dark Crystal, which featured his illustrations and text about the creatures. But that was just about the lore. They also made a separate book called The Making of the Dark Crystal by Christopher Finch, who wrote Of Muppets and Men, that was about the actual making of the movie.
I want to go back in time and tell them.
And then Jim also was the one who fought to get this documentary made and worked it out with PBS to get a documentary made that would come out a month after the movie came out. Then, November 13th, 1982, Jim went to Texas to check on Sesame Place. Because you might remember back in July 1980, Sesame Place opened in Philadelphia, or outside Philadelphia. And this is not really a theme park. It's sort of just an amusement park, theme park in the loosest of terms. They've got a couple rides, but mostly it's walk around, see some characters. But this is the Sesame Place in Irving, Texas, that was opening in 1982, that only stayed open for about 2 years.
Oh, no.
Yeah, apparently there were some competing water parks in the area, and it did not get the necessary crowds, and so it closed 2 years later. They would later also open a park in Japan, which stayed open for about 15 years. and in Mexico, which I believe is still open.
Is there still a big building, an abandoned building with a giant Big Bird head on it in Texas?
One would hope. Maybe that can be part of our Muppet road trip.
We gotta go. Yeah, we can podcast from the abandoned Big Bird head building.
There is a giant Big Bird head. I don't know if it's still there, but when it opened, there was a giant Big Bird head, leading up to a giant.
Went into his mouth to get into the park.
Yeah. Oh, yikes. Something tells me that was probably torn down. Elsewhere in this time period, Oscar hosted another Toronto Santa Claus parade, which unfortunately could not find footage of this one. On December 25th, 1982, Big Bird went to the Metropolitan Opera and helped with their Christmas Day program, explaining the art of opera while introducing a performance of Hansel and Gretel. And the very last thing that we're not talking about this week, but that happened during the time period that we are talking about, is that on December 13th, 1982, it was the New York premiere of The Dark Crystal. And this was the 5 years in development. They had a party after the screening. And apparently this was a very tumultuous, weird week for Jim Henson because Lord Lou Grade, who had helped fund The Dark Crystal and get it made, sold his shares of his company, ACC, and left the company in early 1982. And so Jim had to begin negotiations to buy the rights from The Dark Crystal, because I guess he didn't trust the other people there that weren't Lord Grade. So he ended up completing that deal just in time for the theatrical opening on December 17th, which I feel like Brian J. Jones talks about this maybe in a bit in his book, but is actually one of those things that was not a great business decision on Jim's part, because if he would have let them own it, he probably wouldn't have lost as much personal money. But as we know, the reviews of this movie were not great. They all said, hey, it's real pretty. The effects, the puppetry, they're cool, but, where's Kermit? This thing is kind of boring. You don't have any Muppets in it. What's going on?
They should have put Kermit in there.
You can just introduce it like he does Emmett Otter.
Yeah. Be riding a bike through the whatever weird jungle they're in the whole movie.
Yeah. Then he just gets tackled by a Skeksis and killed.
Yeah, get eaten by one of them monsters.
Well, speaking of monsters that like to eat things, it's time to talk about Sesame Street. So, diving into season 14 of Sesame Street, we watched the season premiere, which is the one where Big Bird heads off to Camp Echo Rock. But there was a whole story arc over several episodes that we see, including a part where Big Bird gets in a canoe, which seems very precarious.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of camp is swimming stuff, I feel like. So I don't know. He's gotta be careful.
Yeah, even a normal human getting into a canoe can be dangerous. So imagine a giant 8-foot-tall bird costume trying to get in a canoe. But also, season 14, some other things happened. Unfortunately, it is the final season to feature Mr. Hooper because Will Lee died on December 7th, 1982. And his character's death will be addressed in season 15 with the famous moment where Big Bird is told about Mr. Hooper's death. But there are some other season 14 happenings in other episodes that we didn't watch. Oscar goes to space for a second time. Previously, he went with Oathmar from the planet Zircon. This time, he just builds his own rocket ship and goes up. And at a certain point, he lets down a rope so that Telly can send him up supplies. And Telly comes up with the supplies, and Oscar gets pissed. He's like, God, I don't want you. But it does seem like, reading through episodes from this season, and I don't know if this happened earlier and we just didn't note it, but at least in this season, Telly and Oscar are sort of being paired as a duo, and they're becoming pretty good friends. Yeah. Begrudgingly on Oscar's part, but they are always sort of together as friends.
I thought it was interesting that Telly was basically the only other Muppet really introduced in the intro song.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how, obviously we're getting a pretty small sample size here of the episodes of Sesame Street that we can see, but it's interesting that, Elmo exists, but we haven't seen him outside of, once or twice at this point.
Yeah.
Slimy exists with Oscar, but we haven't personally seen Slimy yet, even though at this point, Slimy has been around for 10 years, but hasn't popped up in any of the things we have watched. But in season 14, Slimy gets hurt while skydiving.
What?
And they have to call in a worm ambulance and take him to the hospital, where they find out that he sprained the middle of his body.
Oh, poor Slimy. If you threw a worm out of a plane, I think it would just hit the ground and be okay.
It might be. The terminal velocity would be pretty low, I think.
Yeah, I think it would just kind of float down to the ground.
terminal velocity of
a worm.
an earthworm. Would a worm survive a fall from an airplane is the first thing that pops up.
And?
Well, somebody in the forum said, is the worm sideways or is he in a nosedive?
These are the things. Worms are very aerodynamic looking. That's true.
Also, during this season, there are a handful of times where people see things like a giant Snuff Man portable radio and a giant toaster that belongs to Snuffy, but they still don't believe he's real.
How far away are we from?
Like 3 years still.
Yeah.
So long. Susan and Gordon celebrate their 14th wedding anniversary in this season, and we learn that Oscar was there at the ceremony, heckling the whole time. There's also a cute little scene in that episode where Oscar and Grungetta imagine what their wedding might be like.
That's adorable.
Yeah, and Susan and Gordon are there heckling them at that time.
I like that Susan and Gordon were in that Grouchland waltz, too. I kind of like that they're like, their adult friend is Oscar, and they just like go hang out with them down in Grouchland or something.
So the reason that happened is because there's an episode where Gordon and Susan were going to go out dancing. But they're having car trouble. And so Susan tries to fix the car. Gordon hands her a greasy wrench and accidentally wipes his shirt and his face with his dirty hand. So he gets all grimy and gross.
And they can't go dancing anymore.
Well, just as this happens, Oscar and Grungetta come by in the sloppy jalopy. And they're on their way to the Grouch tarnished silver ball. And they see Gordon and Susan looking all gross and dirty. And they're like, hey, you should come with us. And so they go on a double date with Oscar and Grungetta.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and then they end up winning the dance contest that we see.
It sounds like you have the flu or something, and you're telling me about a dream you had.
No, but Susan and Gordon are dirty, and then Oscar and Grungetta still over in the sloppy jalopy.
In the sloppy jalopy.
Also, some other weird things that happen during season 14. The amazing Mumford curses David with a Pinocchio-like nose for a whole episode, and it looks more upsetting than you might imagine.
Yeah, it looks like Steve Martin and Roxanne.
Yeah. Elsewhere in season 14, David's grandma, Grace, is visiting and catches a brief glimpse of Snuffy, but no one believes her either. And in a more precarious episode, there's a water shortage on Sesame Street. And they have to talk to Oscar about using too much water because he has a fountain installed outside of his trash can.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, finally getting into what we actually watched this week. Episode 1706 of Sesame Street is the season premiere. Big Bird greets us. There's a lot of plaid. Lewis, Gordon, Bob, and Maria are all wearing plaid shirts.
All wearing plaid. Yeah, you're right.
And they sing the song that Sam mentioned earlier. Big Bird's going to camp.
Yeah.
And this song feels different for some reason. I don't really know why, but it feels better and different than like any other Sesame Street song we've ever heard.
Better. I mean, it almost is like it could be like the intro song of like a Sesame Street movie about Big Bird going to camp.
Yeah, it feels like more time has been devoted to it maybe, or it's got higher production value or something.
Mm-hmm. It's a little less like kiddish maybe.
Yeah.
Like it would be kind of hard for a kid to understand what they were even saying, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. It does not sound like a song from a kid's show. Inherently, it just sounds like sort of a Broadway musical type of number.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in this episode that we have seen before, which we know that Sesame Street reuses a lot of things, but it was interesting to see that we have seen, like, we just talked about some of these things in our last Sesame Street episode. Most notably, the first Muppets sketch we see in this episode is Ernie and Bert exploring the Egyptian pyramid. Then we get the scene that Sam alluded to earlier as well, where Big Bird and Snuffy are really, really sad about Big Bird going off to camp because, well, when the scene first starts, Big Bird is really excited and telling Snuffy how much fun they're going to have at camp together. And Snuffy's like, we're not going to have fun because we're not going to camp.
Yeah. Making it feel like Snuffy is like 25 and Big Bird is a baby and they just hangs out with a little baby for some reason.
But he's also he's exhibited some quite childlike behaviors at times.
He's just slightly smarter than Big Bird. But then he has to go ask if it's okay to be sad, right? Is that basically what he's doing?
Yeah.
Is it normal to be very sad?
Yeah, because he has a moment, like a Peter Parker, Tom Holland moment, where he's talking to Snuffy and he goes, "Suddenly I don't feel so good." And he's talking to Snuffy and he's like not quite sure why he's sad because he's so excited to go to camp but he's sad at the same time because Snuffy's not going. And so he is unsure if it's okay that he feels both happy and sad at the same time.
Big Bird definitely didn't make it through Thanos' snap, and Snuffy did. And it was very sad.
Oh, I'm just picturing that scene now of Snuffy, I don't feel so good. Like, what's wrong, Bird? And then he just fades away in just a puff of feathers.
And Snuffy has to spend 5 years without his best friend.
Oh, just him and Oscar in group therapy.
Oscar's like, I think this is great.
Yeah. Oscar is on Thanos' side.
I'm genuinely glad everyone died.
But Big Bird decides, you know what? I'll go ask my friends. And this is a great idea to Snuffy, who has a great line. He says, well, being sad hasn't affected your brain. You're just as smart as ever.
Snuffy, so gracious.
Yeah, there's a few, I feel like there's a few really good lines throughout this episode and some of the sketches we watched in the compilation. But this is where we find out that, in my belief, Gordon is sad that Big Bird is leaving for camp, and he is crying. And so he explains to Big Bird that they're all going to miss him, and they're happy and excited for him to go to camp, but they're also going to miss him, so they're sad, and that's okay.
There's no way Olivia is sad, though. She hates all of them.
I mean, we have seen in the past evidence that maybe Olivia is a little bit more tired of the Muppets than the other characters. We go back, and Big Bird and Snuffy are still crying. They're sad again because they know it's okay. Then we get to hear the humans shouting angrily. Where is he?
They do that a lot.
Yeah, we get a couple scenes where they are fighting and they're yelling, Big Bird, you have to get on the bus.
We told that little piece of shit the bus was coming. Where did he wander off to?
Oh, you hanging out with Snuffy? Yeah, likely story.
Mr. Snuffleup, I guess. I heard that one before. Get on the bus.
And this is when we meet Mickey, played by Giancarlo Esposito, a.k.a. Gus Fring from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And the bad guy from The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Grant Moff Gideon or whatever.
Yeah.
Just his, at this point, when you see Giancarlo Esposito, you're like, something bad's going to happen. Don't let him go with Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah, even though in every interview of a real person interview with Giancarlo Esposito that you see, seems like a very nice, delightful man who loves Star Wars.
He seems really nice in this too.
Yeah, but it's Gus Fring, Big Bird. Don't trust him.
Sinister. Yeah.
Oh no.
What?
What if?
Uh-oh. Is he making them into chickens?
That's what I was going to say. This is how he starts his chicken empire.
He's looking back in the mirror as he's driving the bus, and he's like, Big Bird turns into like a big bucket of fried chicken. He's like, I have such a good idea right now.
We got to make a stop in New Mexico. There is a delightful joke when Big Bird meets Mickey, and he says, I've heard of a mouse with the same name. And Mickey says, so have I.
Yeah. That is a very real moment of like Giancarlo Esposito acting like a man who's heard that joke a million times in his life.
Yeah, a man named Mickey has been told 1,000 times a week, hey, like the mouse?
Hey, like the mouse?
We also get an alarming moment where Big Bird thinks Mickey is stealing his teddy bear from him because Mickey offers to grab his luggage and take it to the bus for him. And Big Bird has a little bit of a moment where he's like, he's stealing my toys!
You don't want to spook Big Bird. He's got talents.
Yeah, he can lash out.
Yeah.
But then they reveal, oh, no, Big Bird, we're just putting your luggage in the luggage compartment. And then he's like, well, yeah, but Radar can't go in there. He'll be scared. So they take Radar out, and it's very sweet.
Yeah. You don't want to be getting on the bus to camp with your teddy bear in your arms, but...
And the bus breaks down before they can leave for camp, and they say, does anyone know how to fix a bus? And they're like, well... Susan does, because she's a mechanic.
And then it's like, what? She is?
Two things.
I couldn't even find on Muppet Wiki when that happened, really.
Yeah, it just kind of says she becomes a mechanic. We did read about her last season, though, like riding a motorcycle. So maybe she had to learn how to soup it up when she got her motorcycle. Then we learn that the problem with the bus is the muffler, which is apparently going to be a quick fix from Susan. But in this time, we get to see Big Bird meeting Rusty, the bratty little kid. But Rusty does not like Big Bird at all, it seems, at first.
Mm-mm.
And they fight about whose counselor Mickey is because Mickey told each of them that he is their counselor.
And Rusty's kind of scary. I think if I was sitting next to Rusty on the bus to camp, I wouldn't come around to him, and I would not also be very enthused about going to camp.
He seems like the kind of kid who snuck his knife to camp. And he's like going to show Big Bird later on when they're going to bed. He's like, hey, Big Bird, look what I brought.
This is my dad's knife.
Big Bird's like, I don't think you should have that. He's like, well, I got it, so.
You better not tell anybody, Big Bird.
Oh. Then we get a really long, uninteresting montage of Big Bird on his way to camp, where we just see a bus driving through the city with the kids on the bus, and they show up to Camp Echo Rock, and that's it. There's no jokes. The kids don't say anything as they're looking at the bus. They just show them driving from New York to camp.
Kids love buses, though.
There is a lot of bus stuff throughout this episode. There's a short film in this episode about a bus trip around town where kids are just like pointing at things out the window. There's part where they're learning about the word bus.
Just a little cartoon where the kids say, we're on a bus. Mm-hmm. And then I'm sure the kids are watching the bus scene, going to Camp Echo Rock, and they're like, a bus.
Two of my favorite things, Big Bird and buses.
And a bus, yeah.
We have a two-headed monster segment in this episode.
We've not seen this one either, right? We just have seen them trying to go to sleep before.
Yes. I don't believe we have seen this one because this one was from season 13. So maybe it was in our best of compilation and I forgot. Because,
I don't think so.
Again, similar to Bert and Ernie, the two-headed monster segments are, kind of formulaic as well.
There's really only so much they can do.
Yeah, they're trying to share something and they decide how to compromise. And this one is they're trying to share a pillow.
But they're sleeping on it so they both can't fit on the pillow, but only because they're sleeping on it in a way that nobody's ever slept on a pillow.
Yeah, no, they have it
long ways.
Hot dog, not hamburger.
Hot dog style, yeah. This is how I actually have to sleep on my pillow so that my cat won't lay on the other half of my pillow.
So let's rewind. You literally just said that no one ever sleeps on pillows this way, and then immediately reveal that you sleep on pillows this way.
I don't want to do it. You shouldn't have to do it, but I do have to do it. I have to sleep with it this way and then push most of it against the wall so that most of it's up and then my head can fit on the pillow. So then my cat won't sleep on the other half of my pillow.
Because Lilu is your second head of your two-headed monster.
Yeah, except the opposite of this where I do not want to share anything with Lilu and she would like me to share everything with her. But yeah, you're right, okay? Nobody does, but I do. I'm just built different.
Yeah, a long head. Need a long pillow.
Bert probably needs a long pillow.
That's true.
How does that guy sleep in a bed?
He's got maybe a hole carved in his headboard so it like sticks through the top like a cone head.
Yeah. Do the cone heads have that?
I don't know. I haven't seen cone heads.
They should, though.
I just assume. We move on to Big Bird arriving at Camp Echo Rock, where we meet an amazing camp counselor named May, played by Marilyn Sokol, the voice of Ma Otter in Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. And this is the best thing of the episode.
Yeah, I really wanted to. I wish we had watched part 2 so we could see more of her.
Yeah, she is extremely excited, and the kids are 0% excited.
Yeah, and she kind of sucks at she can't even blow the whistle.
Yeah. But she's talking to them about how, like, hey, my name's May. Some people like to call me Aunt May if you want to. And clearly...
And the kids are no-selling her completely the whole time.
They do not want to call her Aunt May. But Marilyn Sokol doing a great job here, as she does in, many things. But, I did not expect her to pop up here. I didn't know she was actually on Sesame Street. But what do you think of this season premiere episode of Sesame Street Season 14, Sam?
I thought it was fine. It wasn't my favorite. It was... I think the fact that we didn't see much new stuff dragged it down for me. But what you gonna do? It's Sesame Street.
Yeah, I think just because recency bias, season 13, the episode to me felt a little better, and also we'll get to this in a second. The best of season compilation. I think I enjoyed the season 13 one more than I enjoyed the best of season 14 compilation.
Yeah, me too. It was. I don't know if
Forgetful Jones
just picked out like a better batch, or if it was literally a better batch. But season 13 was like, this is amazing from top to bottom, and this one is more just kind of like meh. Okay.
Yeah. But before we get to that, we also watched the classic cuts, which are on the Old School Volume 3 DVD with this episode, which features the Grover the Waiter flamenco guitar player sketch, which is another, Mr. Johnson comes to the restaurant, orders some food, Grover messes it up. Hilarity ensues.
It was pretty good. I liked when Grover said, okay, Manolo, stay cool.
That's exactly what I wrote down as well. There's a number of lines that feel improvised by Frank Oz throughout this that I enjoyed, because the whole conceit is that Grover comes in. It's like a Spanish restaurant, and all the food, the specials are like numero uno, un numero dos, numero tres, numero cuatro. And so as Mr. Johnson orders those, Grover brings them in. Manolo, the flamenco guitar player, starts playing. Grover has to dance, and as he dances, he drops the special on the floor.
And it's the last one of every special. So
yes, of course.
You gotta go through it. I also love when Grover goes back the last time, and he's like, "All right, we need a numero uno. We got a really difficult customer out there."
Yeah, we got to see something that is not actually from season 14. But for some reason was included in this classic cuts batch, and is the teeny little super guy.
Teeny little super guy confuses me deeply.
How so?
Why is his name Teeny little super guy? He's just kind of a guy.
But he's teeny. He's little.
He's little. The super is where it loses me.
You feel like he's not good enough to be super.
He's not particularly super. All of the people he knows can do the same things he can do, which is be a cup, I guess. Why is he a cup? That's the second question I have.
Somebody had an idea to do a stop motion animation thing on a cup, and they're like, all right, I guess he's just a cup guy because we can't hide the cup very well.
Yeah, and then they sent it to Sesame Street, and they're like, what is this? And he said, it's a teeny little super guy.
Or they're like, it's just a little guy. And they're like, that's not exciting. He's like, okay, teeny little guy.
There's the sizzle.
And it's like, well, okay, is there anything special about him? They're like, teeny little super guy. They're like, sold.
I'm writing the check.
He's going to be one of our most famous characters forever.
Yeah. But it's really cool. I love the stop motion, and I love that it seems like whoever made it just like makes bazillions of cups out of like stoneware cups.
Yeah. The teeny little super guy wanders into a baseball game, and we see all these baseball mugs with, or like normal mugs with baseball players painted on the side of them. And as they play, there must be 100 different ceramic mugs created for this special, because we see ones that like move their handle up and down like a baseball bat. We see some that like get hit with the ball and get dented, or they tumble and they like curl into a ball.
The tumble was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's shows a lot of forethought that they had to create like 100 different ceramic mugs of varying quality to make that stop motion work.
I think Teeny Little Super Guy rules. I love Teeny Little Super Guy, but it's just really a very odd concept.
Yeah, and I've seen this man a lot in like they sell merch with him on it, and I've never really known what he was all about, but I'm a fan now. There's a couple little short non-Muppet films in this. We see We All Sing with the Same Voice, which is a bunch of kids singing about diversity in a lot of different ways, where you're from, what you do, your family structure, all that kind of stuff.
Don't make Sesame Street political. That's what people would say now.
Yeah.
It's like, shut the fuck up.
It's been political since day one. Chump. Then we see another little Maria being Charlie Chaplin bit, which I believe we've seen before.
Yeah, it's so weird that that's one of her things.
Yeah. And this is just, it's a silent film, so it's hard to describe without just reading the description of it, but it's fine. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I love when the humans are in skits. I like when they're in skits with the Muppets more, but I like seeing Maria get to be wacky.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking up the Maria as Chaplin skits on Muppet Wiki to see how many we have of these in total.
Oh, whoa, there's a lot.
20. There are 20 of these.
What a strange thing.
Yeah, going all the way up till season 18. They're still doing these.
I wonder if she came up with this or someone. Oh, I love Charlie. Oh, here we go.
Found a quote? Yeah.
I love Charlie Chaplin when I was a college student, and I have been able to write myself as Charlie Chaplin. So I was able to fulfill a little fantasy of my own on Sesame Street, and I was happy that I was able to fulfill their educational goals with that as well. So she just wanted to be Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, good for her. And then we get the last classic cut here, which is The Frogs in the Glen, which is a Scottish folk song, apparently. Don't know if it actually is. Where Kermit is singing just a lovely song about frogs.
Yeah, and making it seem like he's lived in Scotland the whole time. The frogs in this look very weird. I feel like we've seen a lot of Sesame Street skits where the frogs look very unfrog-like.
Which I guess maybe they want to make them distinguishable from each other, but they're pushing the boundaries of what a frog is, I think.
What a frog. Yeah. I think you're right.
Then we watched the hour-long Best of Season 14 compilation, which we're obviously not going to go through every single thing we watched in that because we'd be here for another hour. But we'll go through this list and point out some of our favorites. We'll talk about all the Muppet ones, but also maybe highlight some of our favorite non-Muppet segments from season 14 of Sesame Street. The very first one that stood out to me is one of these human short films. There's a very shy kid named Robert who is in the 3rd grade, and he likes baseball and basketball. And he's riding the bus to dance class. And we get to the dance class, and he has an extremely rude ballet teacher who is yelling at them constantly throughout this. It's really upsetting.
I think that's how ballet teachers all are.
I'm not surprised by it. It's weird to me that they would show that on Sesame Street.
Well, when I was watching it, I was kind of like, I kind of wish I had somebody like this in my life who would have been rude to me until I was good at something instead of what I had, which was nobody making me do anything.
I think there's a middle ground there, Sam.
I don't know. I think I needed that. Because when I saw that, I was like, I would love to take a ballet class with this man who's going to scream at me.
Well, I think Robert doesn't agree with you because, in the middle of this, he is talking about they're doing their exercises as they get ready for ballet. After all of this, he's talking through his ballet class. We see his teacher yelling at him, all this stuff. The very last line of this is, when I grow up, I want to be a policeman.
That didn't really sink in with me, but yeah.
Throughout this entire thing, he is not talking about what he wants to be when he grows up or anything. He introduces himself as a 3rd grader who likes baseball and basketball and dancing. We see him go to dance class, his teacher yells at him, and the very last thing he says, apropos of nothing else, is,
basically,
when I grow up, I want to be a policeman. Definitely not a dancer.
Yeah.
So that was the line where I was like, oh, Robert hates this.
Yeah.
Then we have another Prairie Dawn school pageant, which we have seen a handful of, and we've always loved them every time we've seen them. This one is just as great as all the others.
Something about Prairie Dawn and Ernie interacting is like very soothing to me. I just like the way that they kind of have a mutual respect for each other that nobody else has for Ernie. Like Prairie kind of understands Ernie's like artistic inclinations, I think.
But she's the one who can like actually make shit happen.
Yeah.
So like Ernie comes to her with like some out there idea. He yammers on for 5 minutes and she goes, okay, so what I'm hearing is this. And she writes it down and makes it actually happen.
Yeah. That's like what Jim Henson does kind of, huh?
I mean, maybe he like for Don Saline and Faz Fazakis and all that stuff where he's like, hey, I got this crazy idea. Make it real.
Here's a squiggly picture of a guy. Make this guy a guy.
Make this Rolf. But in this one...
But yeah, I love these.
Yeah. Telly's dressed like a clown at the beginning, and that was a little confusing because then they bring out a big old heart, and I was like, is this a Valentine's pageant with a clown? Turns out, no, it's a pageant about feelings, and Telly is going to play happy, but Telly, we all know, that's the worst choice.
It ain't working for him.
He can't be happy. And Bert is playing a Cupid-like character, singing about love, and he's not too sure about it. Because he doesn't think Ernie understands what love is. And he sings about what love truly means, which is when he sees some baby pigeons or his baby nephew, or when he gets to hang out with Ernie. But of course, as always, it has to end with Bert getting angry because he remembers that Ernie has made him dress up in a silly costume.
He's got to have a diaper on. He's dressed like Cupid.
Yeah. Then we have the Count's first day of school, where he is completely unhinged. He surprisingly does not look like a baby Count. He looks like the normal Count in a striped t-shirt.
I don't think that's surprising at all.
Well, you know, they've made like younger versions of other characters at some points, but like to see him amongst like a bunch of other like child Muppets was just...
With his adult voice also.
Yeah, it was like a Billy Madison situation where like the Count had to go back to school.
Yeah. Well, I think we've seen in somewhere that the Count's like millions of years old, right?
Yeah.
So maybe he forgot everything he learned.
Maybe he's more like an Edward Cullen. That would make more sense.
Oh, that's too, I can't consider that. That's too much.
I mean, he's a really old vampire who has to keep up this illusion, so he has to keep going to school and pretending he's a certain age.
Maybe this was the last time he tried to keep that illusion up, and now he's open about being a vampire, but then it was like, after he sang that whole song, everybody was like, you're clearly a very old man.
No other kid is wearing a cape or sounds like they're from Transylvania, so you're not doing a very good job of hiding this. Then we meet, coming out of his secret garden somewhere in New Jersey, Captain Vegetable. So I had it in my notes to ask you, do you love him or do you hate him?
I love Captain Vegetable. I would watch a whole Captain Vegetable show.
Yeah, Captain Vegetable is a winner. I think
he's terrifying.
Yeah, he seems like half human, half rabbit, a little bit. Apparently, his early puppet even had human ears and rabbit ears both on it.
Oh.
And so they decided very quickly, hey, maybe that's not a great idea. But my favorite thing about Captain Vegetable is not only how unhinged he is, but also how the other characters, the other puppets in the scene, also think he's completely unhinged.
Yeah.
Because one of the puppets asks, like, are you a nightmare? He's like, do I look like a nightmare? And the Muppet's like, well, yeah, kind of.
What are you, some kind of weirdo?
Do I look like a weirdo? And the Muppet just nods at the camera like, we all know he looks like a weirdo. But I think Captain Vegetable would be a pretty good Halloween costume for you next year, Sam.
Oh, you are the one who always got to be a Muppet guy.
I could be a different Muppet guy.
Okay, maybe I will be Captain Vegetable.
I feel like you have a slightly more Captain Vegetable energy to you than I do.
And he shows up more times, too.
Yeah, he shows up more and eventually is weirdly replaced by John Leguizamo playing a human Captain Vegetable character.
Yeah. This song is so freaking good, though. I listened to this one a couple times.
Yeah, this is his debut song. So
they take a strong stance against spaghetti. What's so bad about spaghetti?
I mean,
there's vegetables in spaghetti.
Name one.
Tomato.
Oh, in the sauce. I thought you meant like in the noodle.
No, he's eating spaghetti with sauce on it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think someone out there would probably say that you should probably have some vegetables on the side of your
onion,
spaghetti,
bell pepper.
Maybe like I think he's pushing like fresh veggies, not cooked into a sauce veggies.
All right.
So then we have a Muppet News Flash that is, I think, delightful. It's an Alice in Wonderland Muppet News Flash. The White Rabbit is late, of course, and Alice is teeny tiny.
Yeah.
And Alice and Kermit both, I think, are great in this scene.
I like how Alice is kind of like New York, like cab driver Alice. She's like, yeah, what's up? I'm tiny. Yeah, I'm pretty tiny.
And the very end of this wraps up with Kermit being hungry, and so he decides to eat a cupcake. And of course, that means he shrinks and becomes a little Kermit inside of a giant coat, hat, and microphone.
I feel like that illusion doesn't quite work because he does still look like giant. He still looks like regular sized Kermit, but his clothes all got real big.
And they only look like a little bit bigger. Like I feel like they could have looked even more big and to really sell that illusion. And it's also clear when he's shrinking that Jim is just backing him away from the camera.
Yeah. It's TV magic.
Yeah. We talked about the Circle the Girl country song about circling the girl you love and killing off the...
Killing her lovers.
Yeah, the other ones. So I don't think much more needs to be said about that. But we do need to talk about the delightful Cookie Monster singing If Moon Was Cookie. Which I just put in my notes, all caps. So good!
Yeah, it's so good. I like that it's kind of like a dumb version of Ernie's song about the moon, which is so nice and sweet. And Cookie Monster's like, I want to eat that.
Now they need a Bert version where he wants to go to the moon, but finds out pigeons can't go to the moon. He's like, well, it's not worth going.
Oh, then fuck the moon. Yeah.
But the lyrics to this song are amazing. Because the first verse is, if moon was cookie, me think me would be happiest monster you ever see. Me put on a spacesuit, then up through the night. Me ride in a rocket to go take a bite. But then the last verse is, if moon was cookie, it wouldn't be fine. Because if me ate it, then it wouldn't shine. Me come to the window and look up at night, but no little moonbeams would give me their light. So me not like to say it, but it clear to me, it lucky the moon is not a cookie.
Yeah, he's being very brave in that moment.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but if the moon was a cookie, I would devour it and we would all be without moonlight. So
this is the one situation where it's good that the moon isn't.
You should all be grateful the moon is not a cookie.
It also would ruin the tides. It would really cause a lot of problems.
That's what Day After Tomorrow is all about. Cookie Monster eats the moon. And then
that's why the first scene is all of them looking at the moon being like, what the fuck is going on? What?
A scientist just is looking through a telescope and is like, there's a blue blur moving towards the moon. And the moon's gone! The moon is gone, sir!
He finally did it.
Quick, tell Jake Gyllenhaal.
Because it is like he would only be able to last so long before he was finally like, all right, I'm gonna go eat it.
That's maybe the prequel to Day After Tomorrow is them, like, scientists trying to keep Cookie Monster at bay when he sees the biggest cookie ever appear in the sky. One of the non-Muppet things I want to talk about in this batch is Jellyman Kelly. James Taylor is there to sing a song that he wrote specifically for Sesame Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My only knowledge of this song previously was a reference on The West Wing, where a character refers to this song as like her favorite James Taylor song, which is even more bizarre now that I know the context of this was being written for Sesame Street.
It's a good song.
Yeah. These kids come in hot with their singing along, though, where they just scream the first part of every single line.
I think it's a small miracle that they even sang at all, so I'm going to take it.
Yeah, I don't think they let the girl who was messing with Paul Simon hang out for this one.
Or James Taylor was a little bit more patient in explaining what he wanted to happen, perhaps.
Yeah, it just seemed like these kids actually knew the words, as opposed to like, hey, I'm just going to scat over whatever you do. You do you, man.
Yeah.
And then after that, we have what seems like a pretty unremarkable orange juice stop motion thing where some oranges roll around, they get juiced, they go in a glass, a kid drinks it. That's about it. But the music for this was composed by one Mr. Jonathan Larson, the man responsible for Rent, the man Andrew Garfield plays in Tick, Tick, Boom. Jonathan Larson apparently wrote the music for a handful of Sesame Street things back in the early 80s.
That's cool.
Yeah. Which makes my Muppets Tick, Tick, Boom trailer mashup even more appropriate. I put this out on Twitter to share this because I thought it was fascinating. And I put, it is apparently written by Jonathan Larson because my only evidence I could find of that was in this compilation. It is labeled as like music by Jonathan Larson. But on Muppet Wiki, it didn't say specifically that he did this one. But thankfully, one of our listeners at Skylines Demo on Twitter went and did a bunch of research, went down the wormhole to find out which ones were done by Jonathan Larson. And apparently there's this orange one from 1982, one called Cat Blocks, another one called Real Cats Drink Milk. And he just did the music. I don't know if I haven't watched those other ones, so I don't know like how similar they are. But yeah, fascinating a little crossover with, it seems like he was maybe just doing music for hire, jingly kind of things, and happened to do some Sesame Street.
Sesame Street was probably such a fun little like New York-y place to do your weird little art stuff.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know because in Tick, Tick, Boom, you get to see him like go almost get a job for an advertising firm. And it's that sort of thing where he hates it, but he's good at it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if this would have been one of those gigs where they're just like, hey, we need music for this orange thing. He's like, "Bip, bip, 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 bip." They're like, that's amazing. He's like, fuck, give me my money. I'm out of here.
It does feel like music sounds like. Yeah.
It does feel like something that he could have just like banged out in like 15 minutes. He's like, oh, you need music for an orange juice thing? All right.
Yeah, especially since I feel like part of Sesame Street is like pushing like the experimental a little bit. So I suppose if you're having an off day, you can just be like, it's experimental.
Then we get Hey Food, the Beatles Cookie Monster mashup. Previously, the Beatles, Beetles, have done a letter B number, which Christopher Surf is the man who like helped create Sesame Street, but also wrote a number of songs. He shows off in the Street Gang documentary sort of his skill for writing songs that could get by copyright law.
Yeah,
and he plays a little bit.
Very impressive in this one.
Yeah, he plays a little bit of Letter B in Street Gang, but this is another one where it's like they start off in Hey Food, sounds just like the first line of Hey Jude, and then that next line just goes a little off key, and you're like, all right, I see you, Sesame Street.
And then they do that a bunch more times. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's great. I loved Hey Food.
Yeah. Apparently when the Beatles catalog was owned by the company Northern Songs, the company attempted to sue CTW for $5.5 million because Let It Be was too close to, or because Letter B was too close to Let It Be. Before the case came to trial, though, Michael Jackson purchased the Beatles catalog, and the suit was dropped.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe he was like, I have a friend on Sesame Street named Oscar. I gave him a book about ghosts once, so I'm not going to sue him.
That's probably exactly what happened.
Yeah, but the CTW ended up being fined instead, but only $50, which was paid out of Christopher Surf's own pocket, apparently. And Paul McCartney, who was not involved in the lawsuit, apparently wrote to Christopher Surf saying that he liked the song.
Yeah, and he should.
Yeah. But no, I think these are great. I think there's a handful of them, actually. There's a few of them, these Beatles, not covers, parodies. Fair use. But you like these Beatles?
I like these Beatles much better than I like the Muppet Show Beatles. I continue to think, like, looking at the everything or the whatnots. What are they called in Sesame Street?
The Anything Muppets.
Anything Muppets. Looking at the Anything Muppets and looking at these, like, these Beatles, the Muppets on Sesame Street are just so much cuter than the Muppets on the Muppet Show. So much more Muppety, I think. And these Beatles compared to the horrifying nightmare bugs from the Muppet Show, I don't think there's any contest. They're so great.
Yeah, and I think that the mashup here of, like, having Cookie Monster do a parody to a song, it feels like something they would still do today. But I feel like they wouldn't necessarily tread into the Beatles' water these days. They would still,
they wouldn't make it as close, probably. They wouldn't call the band the Beatles.
Yeah. That feels like really on the nose.
Yeah.
But that does it for what we watched for season 14 of Sesame Street, and we still have more to talk about, Sam. Briefly, let's talk about the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. We saw a car full of Muppets, where Waldorf, Statler, Gonzo, the Rats, Beauregard, and Sweetums are there. Sweetums is pushing the car, and Statler and Waldorf are yelling at Beauregard.
Mm-hmm.
Where we see the terrifying Beauregard masked man.
He's no good.
Yeah, it's just like a Halloween mask of Beauregard's head pulled over a human head.
They could have had, like, Sweetums or something driving. Somebody who's usually big.
Yeah, nope. Just scaled up Beauregard a little bit.
Yeah, I hated that.
There is a brief appearance from the Sesame Street Muppets in this parade as well, which if you want to go watch the full parade clip, you can find that. They just sing the Keep Christmas With You all through the year, just like they did last year and the year before that. So they're kind of sticking to that one note for now. But as Sam mentioned at the very end of this, it says, Paul Williams sings to Giant Olive Oyl. And I, for a second, went, do they mean the character or do they mean a giant bottle of olive oil?
Because, it doesn't seem outlandish.
Not for the Macy's Day Parade.
Olive oil flow, of a bottle of olive oil at the Macy's Thanksgiving.
But you went and watched it.
I had to, because, come on. That's a great sentence.
What did it end up being?
So Paul Williams is sitting. So I don't remember who the host is.
Brian Gumble, I believe.
Is it Brian Gumble? It's a Gumble. There's two Gumbles, and I can never can't remember. Yeah. And he's like, oh, there's Paul Williams sitting on a rocking horse. And it cuts to Paul Williams. To be fair, it is a rocking animal, but it is a rocking lobster. And I don't know why he doesn't say, there's Paul Williams sitting on a giant lobster, but he doesn't. So Paul Williams is sitting on a giant lobster. First of all, I was scrubbing through a lot of this, and this parade was so different than the parades we have now in that it is pure chaos. And there's just like, the balloons are like 4 feet off the ground, which is crazy. They're not flying up in the air too much. They're like dragging on the ground. I don't know if it was like a weird year or what. But also there's just like a bunch of cartoon characters walking around, like costumes walking around everywhere. So the whole thing is just like ballistic, and they're going into the crowd and like signing autographs and stuff. So it's chaos. But so Paul Williams sings a song. I can't remember what song it is now. To just a giant olive oil balloon. Olive oil from Popeye.
Is he looking up at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's looking up at it. He's got a little lobster doll in his arms also. I don't know why. And I kind of thought maybe this song's from the Popeye movie and I don't remember, but it's not. It's just a Paul Williams song. And there's no reason for Olive Oyl to be there and no reason for Paul Williams to be singing to her. So it's great. And then they say Olive Oyl is making history today because she's the first female balloon character ever. And she's really breaking the glass ceiling and like, this is a big day for women. And then they start saying like, hubba, hubba, that's a whole lot of woman.
Of course they do.
Come on, you guys. I was like, I don't know. I don't think they say this, but I feel like they'd be like, her bra size. What would her bra size be? It's that kind of joke.
122 triple X.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just Paul Williams singing to Giant Olive Oyl. There's no more subtlety to it than that.
Wild. I can't believe Snoopy got a balloon before any woman.
Snoopy's great. Everybody loves Snoopy. I love Snoopy more than any woman.
Wow. Take that, mom and wife. Well, speaking of people who love fictional characters maybe more than any human,
yeah.
We also watched the brief clip from This Is Your Life, the UK version from December 8th, 1982, where Lewis Collins just freaking loves Gonzo and even says, he's my hero.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The audio is a bit out of sync, unfortunately, on this bit, but we do learn that Gonzo is in Australia, supposedly, and so he has to report in via satellite, via a pre-taped thing, I mean, that's about it, really.
Yeah, I think it was sweet, but I would have been really disappointed if Gonzo had not shown up. Like, that's the whole point of the Muppets, is that they're, like, real.
If you got, like, a cameo, though, from Gonzo saying your name out loud, wouldn't that be cool?
Okay, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
One note about Lewis Collins that I wanted to include here, because I was looking him up. In the 80s, he auditioned for the role of 007 to succeed Roger Moore. But the audition, apparently, did not go well, and he was rejected as being, quote, too aggressive.
Oh, no.
So...
It must have gone very poorly.
Yeah. I'm James Bond, damn it.
Yeah. He showed up with his dad's knife and said, look at this. Better not tell anybody.
Yeah. He's like, what if we changed up Bond a little bit? Instead of suave, he's just really aggressive. And they're like,
scary.
Maybe not. And he's like, all right, your loss. So that must mean it's time for our Muppets of the Week. I say Muppets of the Week because it's kind of one Muppet, but kind of two Muppets. Because this week's Muppet of the Week is the two-headed monster.
Yep.
Two-headed monster is the purple, gibberish-speaking two-headed monster. In their earliest appearance, they were named Horn and Hardart.
Hardart?
Hardart,
okay.
Which was a real food services company back in the day. So it'd be like
the whole thing, Horn and Hardart was?
Okay. So it'd be like if you were like, oh, this is Procter & Gamble or Johnson & Johnson.
This is Cisco. That's a food thing, right?
Oh, I thought you were like saying the thong song man.
No.
This is Cisco and Ebert. But the left head has his horns pointing down and usually has a large, bushy purple eyebrow, while the right head has his horn pointing up and usually has a big purple beard.
Spoiler alert, they're going to lose a lot of points for that beard.
That is also when we are looking at them, the left and right. Obviously, their left and right would be flipped. The two-headed monster debuted on February 27th, 1978 in Season 9 of Sesame Street, and they first appear in a story called The Two-Headed Monster that Olivia reads to the Count.
Oh.
Yeah, so Olivia starts reading a book called The Two-Headed Monster to the Count, and the two-headed monster pops up in like a little bubble between them, and the Count keeps interrupting because he wants to count the heads, the eyeballs, the noses, all that stuff.
Interesting.
Jerry Nelson was quoted as saying that this basically came around because of Richard Hunt and him just goofing around on set one day. They didn't even have a puppet on, but they were just apparently like speaking gibberish and doing some like, I don't know, wacky movements or whatever they would be doing. Because one of the writers was there and said, "What's that you're doing?" And we said, "One monster with two heads." And they decided to do that, said Jerry.
I do gotta hand it to him. The gibberish is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because in the nowadays it is much more. I feel like a lot of times you see two-headed monster, it's just pure gibberish. Like you can't really get a sense of like what they're saying except for like one word here and there. The debut performance, they have a little bit more agency. They're trying to decide between playing the piano or I think eating a snack, and they're going back and forth between like food, piano, and then one's like hunger, and the other one says culture, and they fight like hunger, culture, and so they have like a little bit more there, not a lot, but because in that first sketch, Jerry Nelson was playing the Count, he could not portray one of the two-headed monster characters, and so in that very first one, it was Richard Hunt and Peter Friedman being the two-headed monster, and Richard Hunt was actually playing the other monster than what he would end up playing for the next handful of years. Yeah. Peter Friedman, again, the man who was the giant carrot on The Muppet Show and is now on Succession. Once they settled that one sketch out of the way, Jerry Nelson and Richard Hunt did take their proper places inside the two-headed monster and portrayed the two-headed monster from 1978 until 1992, which was when Richard Hunt passed away. Then in the meantime, after that, in 1995, Jerry Nelson performed the two-headed monster with Adam Hunt in Let's Make a Word, which is a PC video game, I believe. So didn't actually have to do the puppeteering there, obviously. Then from 1998 to 1999, so a brief run, Jerry Nelson...
Adam Hunt's Richard Hunt's brother, I assume?
Yeah, he served as an additional puppeteer on the Muppet movie, and then later performed the voice of Two-Headed Monster and Scooter in Muppets from Space. After that, Jerry Nelson and David Rudman portrayed the Two-Headed Monster from 1998 to 1999. And then in the early 2000s, as Jerry Nelson was starting to be in worse health and started giving up some of his characters, he gave up the Two-Headed Monster to Joey Mazzarino, who took over and performed it with David Rudman from 2001 to 2016, so for quite a while. And then in 2016, Eric Jacobson took over for Joey Mazzarino, and so now it is Eric Jacobson and David Rudman inside the Two-Headed Monster puppet. As far as family members go, the Two-Headed Monster does have a mother that we have seen on screen twice. The first time their mother popped up, it was portrayed by the Telly puppet in a wig. And then more recently, they showed a bright blue two-headed monster to be the mother of the Two-Headed Monster.
Oh,
so
okay.
Some varying canon as to whether or not the Two-Headed Monster's mother is also two-headed.
Bit of a retcon.
Yeah. There's also a altered version of the Two-Headed Monster puppet that is on the show The Furchester Hotel that just has different facial features and no horns, but it's like pretty clearly that same puppet. And looking into them led me to find the Muppet Wiki page, Head Impaired Characters, which features characters that have detachable heads, multiple heads, partially missing heads, shrunken heads, or no head at all.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty good, fun Muppet Wiki page to peruse, I will say. But what do you think of the Two-Headed Monster here, Sam?
I just like that somebody sat down and was like, well, clearly now we need a weird head Muppet page. There's just too many of them.
Well, how do we not make it judgy? We say head impaired.
Head impaired. Yeah. What do I think? I think they're great, but I fucking hate that beard. I can't look at the beard. It makes me sick.
Wow.
It genuinely makes me sick. I hate the beard. I don't hate your beard. I think your beard's great.
Hey, thanks.
I don't think he should be fuzzy and have a beard. I think it's gross. I think when it turns purple, I'll probably like it better, but right now it's so black that it's just like, I think the problem, and this is not me joking, I can genuinely picture what their pubic hair would look like.
Wow, okay.
Because of that beard. So I'm like, if it panned down, they would have a bush. I can't do that.
No, you shouldn't.
I can't help it. But I think they're fun. I think they're really great, and I love Richard Hunt so much. I'm gonna give him a 7.5. I'm thinking like 2 points for the beard.
Wow. Yeah. See, I give him an 8 because I think, I don't know. I also love them, but I also think a lot of that is based on the Muppet Family Christmas, where they play Santa Claus.
I think that is a lot of what mine is also, which I didn't know that he had a beard because he has a Santa beard on. So then when he took when I saw him, I'm sure I'd seen him before, but when I saw that head without the beard and he still had a beard, I think my brain was like, nope.
Nope, hate it.
Don't have a beard. Yeah.
So, before we go, Sam, I need to ask you, what non-Muppet stuff did you enjoy this week?
A lot of what we're watching is just like Gilmore Girls, which, good show.
Yeah.
It's a great show. But I also I forgot to talk about this last week. I'll talk about first. I saw The Fabelmans, which is the Steven Spielberg auto biopic.
Yeah.
It was not good, I don't think, but it was very fun to watch.
Interesting.
You know how like a Steven Spielberg movie, especially I thought West Side Story. Did you see that?
No.
Oh, West Side Story and all of his movies, they just look magical, you know? They just look great. This one didn't look as great as other ones, I think, which, I don't know. It felt a little bit like, it just didn't look as good as other ones. And also, and I realize it's an auto biopic, so this is funny to say, it was very indulgent, I feel like. It was even for a movie about yourself. And it just is long and it just spends too long on some things that aren't interesting and then glosses over like, the movie begins with him starting his film career, but that scene, I'll spoil it a little bit. He meets John Ford, and John Ford is played by David Lynch, and it's
interesting,
hilarious.
Yeah,
it's great. It's amazing, and it's like that part is magical, and it's a very funny scene. And then the movie's over, and you're kind of like, oh wait, that was the best part of the movie. I want to see him like have a fake office and make Jaws secretly and stuff like that. But it's just about his parents, a lot of it, which makes sense because all of his movies are about like parental issues.
Yeah.
But I feel like it didn't really give me like an insight into him too much or anything like that. But it was really goofy. When it wasn't sad, it was goofy. And there's some great characters in it. And all the stuff about him like in high school is really interesting and fun. But I don't know. It was really fun to watch, but I wouldn't say it was like a super good movie. But I'm glad I saw it. And then I saw Black Panther 2 a couple weeks ago.
How was that?
Which was fine, I think. I think Namor was really good. It was not like super memorable. It felt very much just like a generic Marvel movie to me. I think there was like some really good Chadwick Boseman memorialization that felt like that all felt very earned. Like they did that part really well. But the plot was just kind of like, okay, same thing as always a little bit. Yeah, that one also was not super good, but it was fun to watch. Maybe a little less fun to watch than The Fabelmans, but definitely not as like impactful as the first one, I don't think. Yeah, Namor's cool. I think it's tough to do a guy with wings on his feet.
That does seem like a hard ask, yeah.
The way that he moves is really neat because he kind of like speed skates through the air and does like cool jumps and stuff. Like it looks like he's using his feet to move through the air in a way that's different than like Icarus and in the Eternals was flying. But when he showed up, people were like, what the fuck? Why is he got like you could hear people being like, what's that? So they could have maybe omitted his feet wings and that would have been okay,
right.
I think.
Interesting. I just looked up an article that the headline says David Lynch agreed to appear in The Fabelmans only if there were Cheetos on set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently his only demand.
He wouldn't do it, and who's
Laura
the lady
Dern
from? Laura Dern called him a bunch. I was like, "Please, you gotta." He said, "Okay, I'll do it as long as there's Cheetos."
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. When Rachel read that, she said, "Old men love Cheetos. Both my grandpas loved Cheetos." How about you? That was it.
Weirdly, I've been going back and watching a bunch of old F1 races.
Matt.
The season's over, and I needed to have a reason to keep my F1 TV subscription that I'm paying for.
Okay.
And so I dug into the archives, and I started watching the 2007 season of F1 because that is Lewis Hamilton's first season as a driver. And I figured that's a good sort of arc to start watching. Is this basically... at the time, there's only 2 drivers in that lineup who are currently racing today. So I feel like I'm gonna like see all the people I know now as they start to show up in the races.
I guess that's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like going back and watching archival sports is a dangerous step into sports super fandom.
I mean, I don't know anything about on any of these old races, like who won them and whatever. So it's like at least I'm not watching the old Super Bowls where I'm like, oh, let's watch the Bears win again. They never won. They won one ever. So let's watch the same Super Bowl on loop. But like going back and watching it of like, oh, this rookie, Lewis Hamilton, who's now, raced 16 seasons and is one of the oldest drivers, is interesting.
That does sound cool.
Yeah. So that's, it's a background show if I'm like doing like working out or cleaning my office or something like that. So it's not like I'm just sitting down to watch a 2-hour race every day.
Right.
But, yeah, that's what I've been watching pretty much. That and some other Christmas things like, going back and watching some of the Simpsons Christmas specials and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about those. I should watch those.
Disney Plus has them all in a nice little like playlist you can go and check out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it. So, before we go, we need to tell you all what we'll be watching next time. And we've mentioned it a few times, so if you don't know, that'd be surprising. Next week, we will be stepping outside of the Muppet world and into the world of Jim Henson's Creatures as we watch and discuss the divisive film The Dark Crystal, as well as a documentary about the making of the film called The World of the Dark Crystal. That is on YouTube, I believe, but I think the highest quality you can find is also on like DVD and Blu-ray releases of The Dark Crystal. So yeah, you can find the film, streaming, DVD, Blu-ray, all those places, the documentary, YouTube, also on the DVD. But we'll also be watching a couple of TV show appearances that Jim and Frank made around the time of the film's release to promote the film on like Entertainment Tonight and The Today Show. And so we'll tweet out the links to where you can watch those, as well as the documentary. So join us next time as we find out whether or not Sam or I enjoy The Dark Crystal at all. We need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget to go to commitment.com to find all your commitment needs. You can also email us at mail@commitment.com if you have any questions, or, of course, links to the dark web Muppet things that the world isn't allowed to see. You can follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at CommitmentPod, and you can follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.